Hi, today we're going to take a look at Chapter 5. For those of you who want to own your own business, Chapter 5 is going to be very interesting because it talks about entrepreneurship. So let's look at the learning objectives like we do in every chapter. Explain why people take the risks of entrepreneurship. List the attributes of successful entrepreneurs. And describe entrepreneurial teams, intrapreneurs, and home and web-based businesses. Number 2, discuss the importance of small business to the American economy and summarize the major causes of small business failure. Number 3, summarize ways to learn about how small businesses operate. Number 4, analyze what it takes to start and run a small business. And number 5, outline the advantages and disadvantages small businesses have in entering global markets. So you can see that just from the objectives, this is a very, very big topic being carried in one chapter. So we're not going to be able to talk about it all in here. It's going to be very important to read the chapter and understand the language in the chapter. So why do people become entrepreneurs? Remember, an entrepreneur is a person who takes a risk. They invest their time, their money, their energy into creating a business, and hopefully that business will succeed and it'll be profitable. So reasons: opportunity, profit, right? When people think about owning their own business, what do they think about? All the profit belongs to them. They're going to make tons of money, like Jeff Bezos. Independence. For a lot of people, owning their own business is all about not having a boss and being able to make your own hours. Although when you own your own business, you'll find that that kind of becomes different than you thought. And finally, the challenge. There are people who are called serial entrepreneurs, meaning that they love the challenge of creating a new business. And typically what they do is they'll create the business and then they'll sell it and move on to the next business that they want to create. So what are the attributes of an entrepreneur? What is it that makes entrepreneurs different? Well, number 1, self-directed, meaning that they can work on their own and they don't need somebody telling them what's next. They know what's next. Self-nurturing, that's a characteristic that allows you to tell yourself, keep going. Things are tough right now, but they're going to get easier and we're going to succeed. That's the nurturing part, nurturing yourself, not having someone else do that. Action-oriented. Obviously, an entrepreneur is someone who moves forward. They're action-oriented. They do what comes next. They have a plan and they follow that plan. Highly energetic. All the entrepreneurs I know easily work 12, 14 hours a day. And finally, tolerant of uncertainty. Remember, risk means uncertainty. It means something may happen, it may not. And you have to be tolerant when you're getting past that point. Turning your passions and problems into opportunities. Ask yourself these questions. So when you're thinking about owning your own business, these are the questions that you want to start asking yourself. 1, what do I want but can never find? What product or service would improve my life? And 3, what really irritates me and what product or service would help? A lot of, if not most of, entrepreneurs or small businesses are created because somebody wanted something in their life and they didn't have it. Have you ever said to yourself, gee, I wish there was X that would make my life easier, or I wish there was a thing that could do this, right? That's where this starts. When you find a need, certainly in your own life, because if you need it, so there are other people who need it as well. Entrepreneurial teams are a good way to go. Why? They combine creative skills with production and marketing skills from the start. So when you have a team, you have people with a variety of backgrounds, education, and experience that makes it easier to get the business off the ground. Entrepreneurship within firms. Those are called intrapreneurs. It's very similar to R&D, right? Research and development. Intrapreneurs use a company's existing resources to launch new products and generate new profits. Micropreneurs and home businesses. Micropreneurs typically single persons starting a business. A lot of people start businesses in their homes. So this home business sounds great, doesn't it? Let's look at the benefits. Ability to start immediately, right? You can just do it. There's not a lot to starting it. Minimal startup capital because you're using your home as a base. Comfortable working conditions, again, because you're home, which can be a negative too, so remember that. And no commuting. And with gas prices the way they are, that's a big savings. There are also, when there are benefits, there are also downsides. Some of the downsides for home-based businesses, it's difficult to establish work habits. It's easy to put things off. I'm home, I'll start working at 10. I'll start working at 11. And by 2 o'clock, the day is over and you haven't done anything. So maybe you want to establish a habit like you had when you were working for someone else. If you woke up at 6 in the morning, you left at 7, and you were at your office at 8, then that's what you do when you're home. Isolation. There's nobody to go to. You're very much alone when you're working your own home-based business. Workspace. If you're trying to start your business and you're in a 2-bedroom apartment with a family, the space becomes an issue. And of course, success is based on 100% of your efforts. So whether the business succeeds or fails, it's all on you. This is a great chart to kind of answer. Are you ready to work from home? Answer these questions and see what your answers are. Online presence is interesting. A lot of people think that they can put their business online and all of a sudden they're going to make lots of money. They're going to be Jeff Bezos, right? Making billions. Not so much. My wife tried that a couple of years ago. She's a painter. She's very good. And she went to Etsy. She was going to sell her paintings on Etsy. I said, well, you know what? Let's go do a search and see how many people are doing the same type of painting that you do. And we did the search. And what we found was there were thousands of people who were doing the same kinds of art. So when you go online, you're competing against millions and millions of people. So establishing an identity is challenging. That's why it's the first one here on the list. Be easy to find, not just on your own website, but go elsewhere, write on different blogs, go different places and do adverts. You have to maximize your online presence. Look out for opportunities. Remember other forms of marketing. My personal opinion, a good website, a good web business starts with you handing out business cards to people in real life, because it's a whole lot easier to hand people a business card with your website on it so that they go to your website, they look at what you have. If you've got something that's really unique, now they go and they tell other people to go to that website, and now you've got word of mouth. And that's when you start getting hits from people other than real life, but it's got to start somewhere. Make sure your website has a mobile option and make sure it's optimized. There's nothing more discouraging than seeing a website on a big 27-inch monitor on a computer at home and then looking at it on your phone and it's this tiny thing with everything cut out and it's really hard to see. And be friendly. Encouraging entrepreneurship. What does government do? The government does a lot. Number one, the government does state incubators. Now, incubators on a farm is where they take eggs and they put them in the incubator to keep them warm until they hatch. Incubators for business are the same kinds of things. They're places where people can go to help to hatch their business. The self-employment assistance program is available. There are numerous private entities that will help entrepreneurs get started. So here's an incubator. Offers new businesses low-cost offices with basic business services such as accounting, legal advice, and secretarial help. So you essentially get all the ancillary services to support your business while you're getting going. Half of new businesses don't last 5 years. Lots of reasons why. Here are 3 of the top. Managerial incompetence. Now, I've worked for a lot of small and medium-sized businesses over the year. Most of my career was made up for that as a financial controller. And what I can tell you is managerial incompetence is one of the first and biggest problems. Because when someone starts a business and they're successful with their product or their service, they specialize in knowledge about that product and service. They may not necessarily have the ancillary business skills, HR, accounting, finance, marketing, those skills that you need to really grow the business. So at maybe $6 to $8 to $10 million in sales, it's time for the entrepreneur to let the reins go, assign other people responsibility and authority to take over those pieces of the business that they don't have the skills in. Hard to do. Hard to do. I started this business. I can do everything. Inadequate financial planning. McDonald's, years ago, I don't know if they still do it, but in order to get a franchise for McDonald's, you used to have to show $1 million in liquid assets. Why? Because if most businesses fail in the first 5 years, one of the big reasons is you're not going to make a profit for the first year or two while you're learning the business, while you're building your business, and you need to have capital to pay the bills. And finally, choosing the wrong type of business. You really don't want to choose, for instance, a lounge chair business and try to sell lounge chairs in North Dakota in the winter. Not going to fly. You want to be in a place like California or Florida. With a small business, a lot of times getting the financing means going to a bank, going to a finance company, going to a third party. Somebody's got money who's willing to invest. Those people and entities are going to ask you for a business plan. What's your business going to look like? The plan takes a long time to prepare, and it's detailed, and it's actually a very good step-by-step way to look at your business. The business plan will always start with an executive summary. The executive summary kind of like summarizes all the best parts of your idea, and it's supposed to catch someone's interest and get them to say, you know what, I want to read more about this business plan because this is pretty interesting. Getting the plan into the right hands to the right person or people is as important as getting the right information in it. So here's an outline of a comprehensive business plan. Starts with a cover letter, similar to a resume, isn't it? And then you've got an executive summary and a company background. What's the company all about? Why should it exist? Who's the target market for this company? That sort of information. Then section 3, the management team. Who's going to run this company? Is it just you or are there several people? And how is the management distributed? You need to have a financial plan. In accounting, we call these pro forma income statements and balance sheets. They're essentially based on estimates for 3 to 5 years. So you give the bank or whoever you're applying to, you give them net income for 3 to 5 years, projected. Balance sheet will show what's the liabilities, how much are you going to borrow to do this? What are the assets you're planning on purchasing and how are you going to use them effectively? That sort of thing. Following that, the capital required. So how much money do you actually need and what are you going to do with it? That's kind of tied into your financial plan. A marketing plan. What's your market? Who are your customers? How are you going to get to them? Location analysis. Where are you going to put your business? Manufacturing plan. Are you going to make your own product, or are you going to get somebody outside, a third party, to make the product for you? If you are, how are you going to run that? What's the plan for having that company do that for you? There are lots of sources of capital. Money, trees is not one of them. So you're going to be looking at your personal savings, relatives, and former employers, banks, finance companies, anybody who's got money, who's willing to invest it in your business. And there's tons of resources. SBA, the Small Business Administration, is a federal agency that was created just for small businesses. There are tons and tons of resources. There's SCORE, retired executives who give business advice to small businesses just starting. Entrepreneurship.org. We should be going to websites like Inc.com, which has lots of useful information on cutting-edge businesses and management. Knowing your customers. First, you have to know what market you're going to sell to. Then you start to look at your customers. You look at your customers' needs by offering top quality at a fair price. So once you know who your customers are, you need to know, what are they willing to pay for what you are providing? Who are your competition? Employees are extremely important to a business, and this is a place where a lot of small businesses fall. It's critical to hire the correct employees, train them well, and motivate them. Don't let them get bored. Employees tend to find their jobs more challenging, their ideas more accepted, and their bosses more respectful. And of course, record keeping, that's my bailiwick, right? Accounting and record keeping. We're providing reports. Somebody has to be there to analyze those reports. If you can do it, that's great. If not, you need to go find somebody who can do that. So, 5 mistakes business owners make. Too afraid to commit. How many people do you know who've been telling you for years, I'd love to create a business selling X or doing this service? We all know those people, but they never do it. They never commit to the idea. Number 2, hiring the wrong people. I was sitting in a management meeting years ago, and one of the executives said he knew of 2 people who were at a very successful, much bigger company who left that company. We should hire them. My question was, their 6-figure income, how are we going to support it? Are they going to provide us the skills that we need to increase our sales? Or are they just good people? Don't want to give up control. That's kind of what I talked about before, where the entrepreneur has a great hesitancy in giving up authority for the company. Becoming complacent. I worked for a software developer. So they came up with their software in 1963. I was working for them in 2009, and they still had nothing new. And the company was failing because their old software was the market they were selling to, which was large newspapers, was shrinking. It was disappearing. And they had nothing new on the horizon. Failing to use new technology, another big one. Global prospects. Small and medium-sized businesses account for 98% of all exporting firms in the U.S. Obviously, the development of the World Wide Web, the internet, and related telecommunication technology has made being global a lot easier. But there are hurdles to that. Number 1, the financing. It takes a lot of financing to be able to ship across the world. Number 2, getting started. We go back to the idea of, how do I get people to know I'm here? Number 3, understanding cultural differences. McDonald's, for instance, in Japan, there are fish sandwiches, real fish sandwiches. There are sushi sandwiches. They have a menu that's different than the American menu because they're in a different country. And finally, the paperwork. Advantages small businesses have over large. Overseas buyers often enjoy dealing with individuals, right? They like face-to-face, especially in the Orient. Small companies can usually begin shipping much faster, and that points to something even more important, which is small companies can typically move quickly. They can make changes fast. They can make a turn on a dime. When something changes in the industry or something changes in the world, a smaller business can respond to that. Big corporations take time to make changes. Small companies can give customers personal service. And more, because we're a global community at this point with regards to business, you can get what you want from a lot of different places. So what's going to differentiate your product from someone else's may be that customer service. And that takes care of our discussion on Chapter 5. Once again, please feel free to contact me if you need help, and have a great week.